What?
No way.
Yo, man.
Not me.
What? What the fuck?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Someone tell me what the hell is going on here?
So, Giggle. That was weird. But at the same time, I don't know how to feel about this special here. And like I said before, in terms of an anniversary special, this all seems pretty dull at best and forgettable at worst. And that's just for me. I think the question is, how much are you going to let Russell get away with? I think that's the bigger question you're going to have throughout this entire thing, throughout this entire era that's coming up. How much is Russell going to ride the trust he built in his beginning of Doctor Who? He will always be remembered, first and foremost, as the man who brought Doctor Who back. That's it. Really, he could do anything else he wants, and I don't think it's ever going to change that. We're more critical of Stephen Moffat, of Chris Chibnall, or pretty much every other showrunner before than we are of Russell. And I think because of how the environment's changed, we are sort of holding the showrunners account more than we are, say, the actors, which, to be fair, is the best way to go. You know, an actor can only do so much. The fan base is split on whether or not they like Jodie Whittaker or they just like Chris Chibnall. I think they're both the problem, but that's neither here nor there. Here we're talking about Giggle. And so the premise here is picking up immediately after where we left off, which, to be fair, these three specials technically make one big story, because each one builds off of the other, picks up pretty much right after the other. And here we see everyone's lost their minds and is fighting everybody, and because apparently everyone thinks they're right. And it's pretty much just the commentary on just the way the world is now. It's one big social media metaphor, pretty much. Everyone online thinks they're right, and no one's going to budge. It's also been, the past 8-10 years? IRL? So, that's kind of it. Clever joke. I will give the points for when the Doctor comes like, hey, the giggle is driving you all a bit crazy, but really all it's doing is playing up on your capacity for intolerance and hatred. Those negative traits are there, and you have to work on those, but today this isn't you. Today this is someone taking those aspects, which, to be fair, is found in every species. Like, the more you look at the Gallifrey series, the more you realize the Time Lords aren't that special. They can do special things, but they're pretty much full of the same prejudices and everything else as any other planet. So, yeah, this sort of puts a hole in the whole humans are special bit, which I'm really tired of in science fiction, especially in Steven Universe. But again, we're not here to talk about Steven Universe, we're here to talk about Doctor Who. First of all, I'm grateful to see Bonnie Langford back. Love Mel. Sometimes she can work your nerves, but it is what it is. Nice to see her. Unit, bigger, better. Wasn't Unit supposed to be like Top Secret? I mean, we've taken it off. I mean, I guess what we're really saying is we're acknowledging, hey, a lot of stuff has happened. Mostly people know Cybermen exist. Well, right, mostly people know the Cybermen exist. So, with the mystery of the whole where this is coming from, this leads to the Celestial Toymaker, and this is sort of where Neil Patrick Harris continues to steal the show. He's just eating that scenery. I know people don't like the Spice Girls scene, but I think these are also the same people that really like that scene where the Master and his wife are dancing around as little machines go around. So I don't know. I think they're both kind of just repetitive. But I will say the one with the Toymaker is a bit darker because, people are flat out dying in the most, horridly hilarious ways. So there's that. But the problem is, it never really gets a lot of moments to just sort of be taken in. But whatever. The Doctor and the relationship with the Toymaker is sort of interesting here because it implies a lot of history that, from a TV standpoint, just isn't there. really also sort of took the Toymaker idea, like, you know what, there seems to be the sort of history there, like, this may or may not be the first time they've met. I would like the idea of the Toymaker sort of, I know it's cliched, a Gallifrey nursery rhyme. Like, you know, he is, in essence, something that Time Lords fear, or maybe that Time Lords sort of fight. Like, I've had this idea going on for a story with vampires, because for some reason Doctor Who has a history with vampires, and I thought, well, let's do a first, third, fifth, seventh, and 11th Doctor story involving the vampires in one great final battle with the 11th Doctor versus Fenric. To me, that would be peak Doctor Who, and I want an audio form, and this is just how I want Matt Smith to come to Big Finish. But again, we're getting off topic. There are lots of other things I'd like to talk about in this episode, but the back and forth between the Doctor and the Toymaker is sort of interesting, because it does sort of feel like they may have done this dance before outside of just the first episode. So then it's sort of the bigger story in the background, which is the Doctor, and he needs to stop. He just keeps going. He just keeps going. I'm like, that's not true. People want to cite, oh, Trenzalore. I'm like, Trenzalore is not really the example you want. You kind of want the Snowmen. You also want the 24 years the Doctor spent with River Song. You want pretty much the stories in between. Like, what was it, before the Army of Ghosts story, Ten and Rose are walking around holding hands, so clearly they've had fun adventures together that we didn't see. You know, it's fine. But Donaldson's point out, like, you just keep going and you never stop to talk. I'm like, well, I mean, true, but that's not unique to this incarnation. Alright, the 11th Doctor doesn't like to talk about his past. The 9th Doctor likes to talk about his past. The 7th Doctor felt very sad about, you know, the people he'd lost. And it sort of made sense why the character keeps going, because it's too painful to look back. But anyway, so the back and forth with the Doctor and the Toymaker is interesting, but I don't think it's explored enough. But I think that's also just sort of how Russell sort of does his stories. At the same time, because really what he did here was just Last of the Time Lords. Like, Russell's really just rehashed a lot of his best hits and just sort of repackaged them in a way that, you know, feels different. Alright? I mean, the scene here with the whole bioregeneration, isn't this just another take on his Stolen Earth story when Ten is running towards Rose and he gets shot by a Dalek, and instead of regenerating, he finds a cheat, and this again, he finds a cheat? This is just what Russell does. Really, and it's not like he's the only one. You could argue Moffat's done the same thing, you know, repeated some of his own storylines. But people always hold Russell to like this higher standard. Every time Steven does something or Chibnall does something, like, well, Russell wouldn't have done that. Well, here he is. Here he is. Really, if you replace Neil Patrick Harris as the Toymaker with Neil Patrick Harris as the Master, you pretty much get the same story. It's just John Sim as the Master. That's kind of it. Even the build-up is almost the same. Yeah. But anyway, let's talk about that here. This bioregeneration scene. Where are his pants? Like, just go back. Let's go back. Because this is really what I want to talk about. This is the part here that just sort of rustles my proverbial jimmies, because this is where I just start to hate the episode. Really. Like, this has become a special I don't want to go to. Alright? And it's not because Ncuti Gatwa did a bad job or David Tennant did a bad job. Every actor here did a phenomenal job. Alright? Is this the proper send-off for David Tennant? No. Is this the proper introduction to Ncuti Gatwa as the 14th Doctor? I'm sorry, the 15th Doctor, which is weird because, again, in the credits on Disney Plus, they still refer to David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. So, whatever. So, Ncuti's debut as the Doctor is unique, and it's almost something I would have wanted in Doctor Who. In general, I've always wanted like a mid-season regeneration. The closest we ever got to that was Colin Baker when Peter Davison as the 5th Doctor regenerated in Caves of Androzani. It was not the last story of the season. It was the second to last story. It was followed by the Twin Dilemma, which we've talked about that and how they didn't do Colin any favors. And then the other thing we get is, say, the Stolen Earth story, where the 10th Doctor regenerates, but he cops out and puts it in a hand, leads to Dr. Donna, which leads to this problem here with the specials. Here, my problem is we have a new Doctor, and he is forced to share the screen with the incumbent. This bi-regeneration felt really like a worse version of Deep Breath, where the 11th Doctor talks to Clara, sort of interrupting the 12th Doctor's story by like, hey, it's me. Hang on, I have a phone. It's me, Clara. He is me. And he's scared and he needs you. Sort of a way to, assure the audience, hey, he's not like the other incarnations, but he's still the Doctor. Was a bit unnecessary, but whatever. Here, it sort of feels like we aren't ready to give this Doctor any real breath. And it's weird. An anniversary special is a good place to regenerate, to introduce a new Doctor, I think. But at the same time, it's at the tail end, and what does he really bring to this story that ultimately couldn't have been brought up later? Like, he could still play the ball game as just one Doctor and just go from there. I like the fact that Neil Patrick Harris or the Toymaker were like, no, I played a game with one Doctor, I played another with a second Doctor. Now I want a new Doctor for out. Like, yeah, sure, I butchered it, but whatever. I'm not Neil Patrick Harris. I'm not that cool. I'm also not gay. I'm also not that good an actor. So anyway, shoots him, and he's like, I've got to regenerate. Donna, Mel, could you pull? And they pull, and there's a black man in him. And Shooty does a great performance as the Doctor, but this story is just, for lack of a better word, ass. Alright, so he talks about, you're tired, you've been fighting and all this, you're wearing thin. I'm like, so, wait, so are you. Like, you're not, like, this is Russell's attempt at a soft reboot. It was better when he did it with the 9th Doctor, because we used the gap and the Time War to explain, hey, where the character's been, and why he's in this new headspace. And that sort of worked because it also used the Time War to explain everything and going from there. This is like, hey, all that stuff you've been through, all those stories, that's all you. Even though I definitely remember all of that. So it's still me. But you need to rest. Why? Because we can't kill off David Tennant a second time. Alright? That's kind of it. And we do the neat little bow thing with David Tennant. Alright? And I get it. Alright? David Tennant is the most easy to access Doctor for the BBC or Disney or Russell if they ever want to bring a Doctor back. He's the one most willing to come back. He's the one who's, I think, at that good part of his career where he can just sort of schedule that better. I think Matt Smith is still waiting for something really good, although House of the Dragon is doing that. And I don't think Peter Capaldi likes multi-Doctor stories. And Eccleston, hell will free. I will be the next Doctor before Eccleston comes back. I'm saying it that way, so that way I get to be the next Doctor. We'll totally downgrade from Shooty, just put me in a costume. We'll do it. But, like, the whole thing, like, as it went further down, I just sort of got more and more, I hate to say upset, but yeah, I just hated every second it went through. So it's like, hey, here's your own TARDIS for you to retire and not do anything, alright? And then 5 minutes later, it turns out, hey, he's still hopping to Mars. So what is this? Is he the guy from Megamind? Like, I'm done. He's going to see people in a Dalek concentration camp and go like, well, that's going to be something for the other Doctor to get to. Bye. He's going to what? No. Like, he's going to keep doing stuff as long as he can travel. As long as there's any sort of problem, the Doctor will get involved. The second he decides to not help is the second he stops becoming the Doctor, and then what good is he? What good is he? Alright, the second he looks and sees trouble and goes, nah, I'm out. And it's not for the safety of someone, but he feels like he's done enough. No, he's not the Doctor. And I know some people like the idea, like, oh, well, this is how the Curator comes to be. That would legit ruin everything. I mean, like, so that would mean at some point he will regenerate into Tom Baker. And if you go by the audios, Colin Baker. And if we're going with the idea that we take the most popular Doctor and the least popular Doctor, that means at some point he'll regenerate to Jodie Whittaker, which would just be weird, but also an entire offshoot of the Doctor. Like, this incarnation cannot regenerate, because then it just flushes everything down the toilet. But at the same time, I will meet halfway. At the same time, I had a really cool idea. What if this is the Doctor that becomes Unit's new chief scientific advisor? Because that new one just isn't doing it for me. I'm like, yeah, she's in a wheelchair and a woman. She's gonna be LGBT next. We're just checking off boxes. Nothing about her is interesting. She's like, hey, I have a cool chair. That's cool. I mean, I don't mind a, handicapped or differently abled character, but what else does she do? Like, where's her quirks? Where's what makes her interesting? Like, I miss Osgood. I love that girl. She was fun, quirky, and just loved to rummage through the Doctor's clothes somehow. But yeah, I just like the whole you get your own TARDIS, everything. This is basically what he did in Parting of the Ways. Alright? People loved Ten and Rose, and we didn't want to see Ten and Rose separate. So what happened? We made another Doctor for Rose, homegrown. She can grow old and die with him. Alright? And as far as we know, this incarnation isn't going to grow at or age at the same pace as everyone else. So he's going to outlive everyone there. Alright, he's going to outlive Donna. He's going to outlive Donna's husband that no one cares about. He's going to outlive Donna's daughter, Rose. Going to definitely, well, might not outlive Sylvia. But he's going to. He's going to outlive that entire family. And then what? Like, well, guess I'll travel again. Also, what about Susan? His legit granddaughter. Like, this man's like, I need a family. This whole, like, you regenerated into this face so you could come home. He was never home with Donna's family. Alright? Donna was his best friend. Will was the closest thing he had to a second dad. And yeah, that sounds great. But Bernard Cribbins has already sadly passed away. Alright? That's no one's fault. Like, no one's going to throw that in Russell's face. Like, if you do, you're a garbage person. And what? Donna's his best friend. That's kind of it. He has no rapport with Rose. Or he has no rapport with Sylvia. He has no rapport with, again, Donna's husband. So why is he hanging out here? Like what? Hanging out with this incarnation's best friend. Yeah. Because it's not like I have a granddaughter or a great-grandson. Like, or apparently other great-grandkids, that he could see. We just don't care about Susan. This is what Russell does, though. Like, people critique Moffat for killing people and bringing them back. Russell won't. Like, he'll either kill, like, other versions. Like, we killed another version of Mickey. We killed another version of Martha. We killed a lot of black people with Russell. I'm worried about this Doctor. Also, all the hands of the Cybermen. But then again, Moffat also had black people die under the hands of the Cybermen. Or be tormented by the Cybermen. Is that like a dark secret they have? Whatever, I'm kidding. But yeah, think about it. At the end of the day, Russell will just constantly tease you with sadness. But at the end of the day, he's going to give you exactly what you wanted. Everyone gets a weird relationship that doesn't quite work out. Like Mickey and Martha, the two black people there. And they just had to get married. No one cares about Donna's husband. I just, why do we Bogart? This incarnation should have just died. Or it should have faded away. Like when the bioregeneration happened, the Doctor, they should have been like, you can't last, right? And he's like, yeah, I know. The bioregeneration, it's borrowed energy. Yeah. And it has to go back to the current Doctor. Alright? That's all that has to happen. He has to go back in and sort of fuse together. And it's just Shooty as, 15, yeah, we're here. And we go from that. It should have legitimately happened right after they won the ball game. But no, we didn't. We had to once again tug the heartstrings and deny this incarnation a farewell. You know what? Because, you know why? He was never the 14th Doctor. He was just the 10th Doctor in another costume. You know how you can tell? He doesn't play any differently. David Tennant is one of the best actors to ever play the Doctor. He's not my favorite Doctor, but let's be honest, the man has the range. He could have played an entirely different incarnation in that same body. But we didn't. Russell really should have just had to be the Toymaker was behind all of this. The Toymaker engineered it so that Donna would get that memory back and whatnot and everything. He's like, hey, let's bring him here. So for this game here, because if we bring it with Donna, I can torment him more and go from there. Instead, we went with this route. And it was legitimately one of the dumbest things Russell's ever done. Why am I so negative about this? Because I put a video out where I said Russell coming back would be bad for Doctor Who on sort of like a meta level, or at the very least on the level of, if every time things get bad we dust off Russell and David, the Doctor Who deserves to end. It just does. Here's the thing: I was not a fan of Jodie Whittaker or Chris Chibnall's era, but you know what? They're the Doctor. She was the Doctor. He was showrunner. Whatever. Let's just judge the era on its merit. But we're not going to judge Russell. Every time people do, what happens? People just come up to defend him. And Russell seems to apparently been just a terrible person since this whole thing happened. He's been a bad ambassador for every one of his ideas, whether it be uncrippling Davros, like, well, because for the longest time there was this stigma against handicapped people, and it felt very bad and problematic to, have your handicapped person be a villain. I'm like, well, do you think just because they can't walk, they can't be assholes? That's not true at all. Also, Russell, you made your own handicapped character create the Cybermen. Are we just trying to cover up for your bad things, Russell? Are we? And then the whole thing with this sort of ham-fisted thing in the Star Beast. The whole, male-presenting Time Lord. No one cared. Like, again, the sort of LGBTQifying the Doctor. The Doctor is too complicated to try to put into a simple box like that. Binary, non-binary, gender fluid, I felt was the best explanation for him. He's not going to be whatever you think he's going to be. He's just going to be your best ally. That's it. He will always stand up for whatever cause. He doesn't care what's going on. He's going to say, this is wrong. They do not deserve to be treated that way. Alright? This applies to people on with regards to their sexuality, race, gender, political affiliation, even your crime. He still says you deserve to be treated like a decent individual. That's it. That is it. And Russell seems to be using Doctor Who as the cudgel to beat people down with his progressive or woke storyline, but these things all have to be judged on a case-by-case basis, alright? Again, Wild Blue Yonder is just an overhyped story. Good performance, again, which is midnight. This story here, though, is the anniversary special I won't go to. I won't. I'm going to watch Power of the Doctor again, which is interesting because Power of the Doctor, at its core, is a celebration of the Doctor's legacy. Or really just sort of I think, was that what I said before? Power of the Doctor, of the Doctor's legacy, i.e. the companions. Alright? The downside of that special was, outside of Rasputin Master, which is still hilarious if unnecessary, was it totally underutilized Jodie Whittaker. That should have been a moment where she gave the performance of a lifetime for her, and she could have silenced all of her critics. You know what? She can act. She really can play the Doctor. 3 opportunities for her to play a totally different character, and Chibnall did not let her do it. She could have played the 5th Doctor to convince Tegan she actually was the Doctor. Could have played the 7th Doctor to convince Ace that she really was the 7th Doctor. In a reminiscent of the death of the Doctor in the Sarah Jane Adventures, when 11 talks to Joe Grant, and it feels like he is channeling the 3rd Doctor. Even Joe goes, it really is you, the 3rd. She's remembering her Doctor, the 3rd Doctor, as she talks to 11. Alright, that was brilliant. Alright, and then when the Master takes over the Doctor's body, we could have seen evil Jodie pretending to be Sacha Dhawan as the Master. That would have been so cool, but they didn't let her do it. Again, so here we are, and this anniversary special is, I guess, a celebration of really Russell. That's really, these 3 specials are just Russell celebrating his era. That's all it is. That is all these anniversary specials are. It's Russell going, I did really great. Didn't I? I'm awesome. And now I'm back. President immemorial. That is who Russell is now. And I think I said it before. If Chris Chibnall wrote this, more people would be criticizing him. If Stephen Moffat wrote it, more people criticized Moffat for ages. Alright, during his era, after his era. But no, we won't. the people will not hold Russell to the same standard that we held Moffat or Chibnall to. And maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I just... Yeah, I thought about this. Maybe I haven't left Doctor Who. Maybe Doctor Who left me. And the fandom isn't serving me well. But at the same time, I am interested in what Shudigat was going to bring to the table as the Doctor. I am. I want to see this one. I'm hoping Time Lord's come back. I'm hoping the one who waits is Omega. I think we get it that Kate is the one that took the tooth, that held the Master, which makes sense. You know, she's going to lock it up. But I just think this was a bad send-off for everything in Russell's own era. I think he really just crapped on his own legacy. Or maybe I'm just wrong, you know. Whatever. So anyway, with that in mind, this brings to a close. If you are new to the Bug Thing, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. Smash that thumbs up button. Let me know your thoughts on these. What you're hoping from Shudi's performance, Russell's era. Did you like the specials? I know a lot of people did, and more power to you. I will catch you all later. This is Bug Think signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, may your fandom serve you well.